Well, to the question of when it will consolidate itself, the answer is not now. I'm speaking about now, and I have the displeasure of opening with words from the second inaugural of Donald Trump. The golden age of America begins right now. What did he mean right then by now? Paul Tillich calls a problem of the now the deepest of all the riddles of time. Now offers also the most urgent of all the riddles of the concept, the riddle of its politicality. In what follows, I offer this riddle's outline. Now makes up any concept's politicality. By politicality, I mean something like what Cedric Robinson does in his great Terms of Order. Politicality, he says, is an ordering principle distinguishing the lawful or authorized order of things while itself being the origin of the regulation. Politicality is an ordering principle arranging the relationship of things and of people within some form of society. It is a stratagem of behavior directed toward a certain consequence, an act founded on specific sociological presumptions, a pattern of role interactions selectively scattering the existence of human beings by some estranged, arbitrary definition of the positivity. It is an active definition of the situation. When I say that now makes up any concept's politicality, then I'm offering a description of now's meta-conceptual function, of the work that now does upon concepts. Now is the situation, as well as the means of offering what Robinson calls an active definition of the situation. I'm also making a very broad and I think controversial claim. I mean, everybody likes to claim to be controversial. Yes, controversy. This one, if it is controversial, it has two parts. First, I'm claiming that any concept has or can be attributed the quality of politicality. Any concept, not just those we might obviously and immediately enroll, not only liberty or state or ground, but street and tree and ash as well. No, whatever you want, apple. Politicality, as Robinson puts it, is always there, absorbing and being itself absorbed, penetrating and being penetrated. It waits, slumbers, inheres in a situation, and it can be awoken just now, by now, in all concepts that pertain to that situation. Second controversial claim. I'm claiming that concepts can now lose or shed or be shorn of the quality of politicality. Those that always have been political, the ones we obviously and immediately enrolled as political, and those that weren't. This doesn't seem to get at my dilemma, which is more urgent and less abstract. On one hand, now is the fuel and the end of efficiency, productiveness, and productivity. It's the tripwire of Trump and Musk-style techno-capitalism. It's also the tense and the mood of techno-capitalism, authoritarian political expression, the executive order. Do it right now. Do it before they know it and before you know it. Obey right now before the slow logic of institutional governance catches on and catches up. But on the other hand, I'm also certain that now is the lever of response to the threat of fascist techno-capitalism. Act now or it's too late. Do it right now. Resist now. Sabotage, break, appeal, argue, march, burn now or we're lost. You and I. Waiting for the long time of institutional governance to kick in condemns us to Trump's right now. Am I not weakening the concept of politics by broadening, then limiting its scope scandalously? Am I not, as it were, depoliticizing politics when I claim that now, like a catalyzer in a chemical reaction, like the philosopher's stone in ancient mythologies, now transmutes and makes and reveals and can also shear off the politicality of any concept? Is a weakened, depoliticized politics really what we need now? Is it what now awakes in the concept of politics right now, when Trump's now appears to require so much more of us? When we'd seem instead to need traditional concepts used as slogans to rally us, concepts like resistance, opposition, sabotage, even violence. Saying that now makes up any concept's politicality is an act of sabotage. Does it help us to break, argue, appeal, march, and burn? Just how? We fight with concepts in the classroom, yes. In courtrooms, surely. Do we need concepts on the street? But just what is a street, or a classroom, or a courtroom? Where are their borders? Who or what polices these borders right now? What counts as policing right now? Concepts, even day-to-day ones like classroom or courtroom or are political when they're set to work at and by the present moment. That is, when the old concept-seeking question, what is this, becomes, what is this, for whom, where, right now? In what location, to whom, in what language, and especially when I ask and answer the question, what is X? These make up what's political about X. What happens when we ask, what is now now? What politicality do we make available, and what politicality do we lose? I'm going to explode now in 4 directions. The point is not to gather these nows back together eventually, to integrate or reintegrate them. Nows catalyzing, transmuting, making, disclosing, shearing off function, its politicality derives from its wild disaggregation, and precisely not from its wild work at what Robinson calls selectively scattering the existence of human beings, since no rules of selection firmly underlie now's work. Exploded now gives us unsuspected weapons for street fighting. My first direction, so this is four explosions if you want. Explosion 1, what do I mean when I say now? Accent on the first person pronoun. My question immediately splits 3 ways. Here's how Bertrand Russell imagined the first way more than a century ago. Impressions on our sense organs produce sensations which are not merely and strictly instantaneous, and therefore the objects of sense of which we are immediately conscious are not strictly instantaneous. Instants, therefore, are not among the data of experience and must be either inferred or constructed. It's difficult to see how they can be validly inferred. Thus, we're left with the alternative that instants must be constructed. On this description, when I use now to denote a moment or an instant, I am in fact referring to connoting a construction. I'm referring to the outcome of prior work constituting, valuing, ordering, and sorting, work done by my physical, cognitive, and mental faculties over time upon impressions. Now makes up and is made up of both the instant, the work of its construction, and the time separating the first from the second. I mean something else by now as well, my second way within this first explosion. Right now, I, still accent on the first person pronoun, I am consumed with what's just happened to me, with what's still happening. I have in mind my ashen house, my burnt neighborhood, my town, Altadena, destroyed last month by fire. I mean that no matter what I'm saying or doing or thinking just now and here, my attention is wandering. I'm not all here right now, as I have no doubt that your attention is wandering as well right now. Just now, experiencing and constructing the instant, other scenes are present to me, as other scenes than this are present to you as I speak. I'm describing a psychophenomenological fact. Not only is the now instant a constructed rather than a punctual event, the I doing that constructing is also in construction. I am here and not here, here and elsewhere, now and not now. So right now, my now, or at any rate my experience of what's now, isn't mine alone. For because my now is a posteriori, both the now instant, the work of its construction, and the time separating the first from the second, and because I'm not all here right now, then the bounds of where and when I am just now are not settled. Where my experience of now is to be found, on what street, or in what the classroom or courtroom, even what I experience now are not immediately given right now to me. I mean a third thing within this first explosion when I say now. What linguistic universalists index tense and person differences to the present moment represented by a point labeled 0 on a straight line with the past represented conventionally to the left, I'd like to split that and say that the left is conventionally now in the future to the right, however, in the past, as Bernard Comrie put it in 1985. The present's absolute privilege, as Derrida calls it, and the building of modality intense upon a point zero now, or the now, at once explain and justify the universalist claims of linguistics and the formalist drive in philosophy. I affirm that all men are mortal, and that Socrates is a man. I don't mean to affirm that what follows, that Socrates is mortal, is the case only now at a point labeled zero on a straight line. It is not true that all men are mortal is true just and only here in Providence, or just entre nous, or just when the proposition is being uttered by Jacques Lezra. This might make it worrisome to organize conferences just here, just now, and especially tricky to invite me to speak, since mortality seems to be in my tongue only. No, my tense and my quantification are abstract and universal. When I say all men, I'm not restricting myself. You and I can substitute any subject in Socrates' place and any speaker in my place and predicate finitude or something else of the subject and the speaker, just on condition that you and I do so at a now that really means at any moment and for all moments. The abstract, real meaning of now, its logical, and Russell would say, scientific meaning accompanies the psychophenomenologically divided egocentric particulars, that's Russell again, that now has for me first person whenever I say now. Because now is both painfully my own, since I'm consumed with what's just happening to me, and yours, since it's a psychophenomenological fact that I attribute to you, since it's ours here immediately, but also constructed, since now means only now, but also universally, at any moment, and for all moments. For these reasons, now's edges open uncontrollably to make legible for me and for you and you and you commonalities of otherwise disaggregated events. No force that you or I control polices this contingent opening of now's edges. Now unbinds itself from just the present moment here to bind together the catastrophes in Gaza, in Ukraine, in my home, and wherever you are while you are also here. These catastrophes appear to me right now under the common aspect of accelerating extractivism, whose political shape lies where ethno-nationalism, techno-capitalism, and settler colonialism intersect. What appears now to you is each of us, inasmuch as we share the form of psychophenomenological experience, and inasmuch as we're subject to now's universalism, is each of us bound to recognize what binds the other's disaggregated catastrophes. Are you and your now then bound to me and mine? Just how, at what cost, and with what exclusions? Here, my calculus is for the first time explicitly and openly political. So much for what I mean when I say now. Who cares about that? Now, what did Trump mean when he said right now? You'll say, Trump's right now meant in English just then, the instant he uttered the phrase, the golden age of America begins right now. His now worked, or so Trump and his followers believe, in the same way as the performative utterance, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States. So swearing, so affirming, Trump both committed himself and assumed the identity and qualities and burden of being the one who can commit himself to executing faithfully that office. On January 20th, 2025, then, Trump meant this by the golden age of America begins right now. He meant, I open, install, name, inaugurate the golden age of America right now by means of the power invested in me right now. Just then, at that point, right now, his force exerted right now upon a political body, America, or the body of people attending his inaugural in person or remotely. But on the evidence of his subsequent executive orders, you will also say Trump's right now meant not now but later, at a different point, at the still-to-come moment when he would have completed wiping clean the slate of American history. finished the work of dismantling the United States governmental institutions, done disbanding much of its civil workforce, finalized the work of redistributing wealth upwards, of privatizing to an even greater degree than already obtains the healthcare, university, and public services sectors of the economy. By now, Trump must have meant something other than just then. Beginning right now meant beginning soon. The bounded scope of Trump's now becomes unbounded, so too his sovereign power to decide just how to bind it and bound it. Trump was speaking English, a tensed, well, so we believe, or so he believes, a tensed language. But of course, there are untensed languages, and there are cultures in which present action is bounded in different ways than in English. Did Trump say, the golden age of America begins right now, or did he say, das goldene Zeitalter von Amerika beginnt genau jetzt, or l'âge d'or de l'Amérique commence? Or did he say, la edad de oro de Estados Unidos comienza ahora mismo, as the Spanish language edition of Voice of America has it? To observe that saying right now may mean one thing in English and another when we speak the Hopi language, for instance. One thing in a tenseless language and another in a tensed language, something in Navajo and something else in Spanish or Nahuatl or Mandarin or in the language of Borges's fictional Tlun. This observation does not necessarily commit me to the strongest version of linguistic relativism, which would mean maintaining that now is simply untranslatable across cultures. To observe that cultural translation means something different in Trump's America right now and right here than it meant before January 20th, 25, this does not commit me to wholesale historical relativism either. In neither case am I throwing up my hands helplessly when the senses and values of cultural differences are being violently reassigned or erased or ignored. To the contrary, these sorts of observations allow me to locate and underscore the egocentric particulars in speech acts that seek to perform universality, self-evidence, and naturality, and seek to clothe themselves in the Fourth Reich's endless cloak. We need other languages more than ever. Spanish, my other language, the language of multitudes under threat of deportation from Trump's golden land and golden time, Spanish has many shades of ahora, from the Latin haec ora. We say, ahora voy, I'll be right there. And we'll say, pasó ahora mismo, and mean it just happened a little while ago. We use the diminutive ahorita in parts of Latin America when now means, as Luis Fernando Lara, the director of Mexico's Diccionario del Español de México, puts it, será cuando se pueda, o en el momento oportuno. It'll be done when we get to it, at the right moment. Right? I speak Spanish, and the golden age of America begins right now, means and can be made to mean ahorita, that is, it begins now, when the work of erasure, forgetting, misconstruction, falsification, removal, and obfuscation of the past and present of the United States' racist, classist, identitarian violences now will have been done. Ahorita, then, and only then, when America has scraped, razed, obliterated, exterminated, unbuilt, deported, unthought, expelled, denied its way into its golden age, only then will now begin. This now, this ahorita that shadows Trump's performative and sovereign now, licenses the worst. This deferring, unbounded now, this ahorita gives Trump and his dojis time and scope to define just when and just how the now of America's golden age has been reached. To make America great again means bringing America, ahorita, into a now purged of inconvenient times, tenses, languages, and bodies, purged of nows other than Trump's golden one. But this shadow deferred now is also a weapon of the weak, as Jim Scott puts it. Just now, ahorita, I remember that an unbound now isn't easily bound again, no matter the force that you exert. It's January 20th, 2025. I, Donald Trump, promise to uphold the Constitution of the United States. My promise commits me just then, right now. But I find inconvenient the sense that you and you and you give to that act and to that concept, the Constitution. Ahorita, I act to bind and bound that concept. My promise, Trump's promise, let's say, is in your eyes suspended or broken. In Trump's eyes, it is kept and carried out faithfully. We're now in a state of exception, you say. Just wait, Trump will say. Obey right now, and we will enter the golden age of America. How do you and I answer this call to obey here and now? In a 2021 interview, the Mexican social psychologist Pablo Fernandez Crislib recalled Mexico's colonial history and argued that ahorita sirve para no obedecer. Ahorita makes it possible to disobey or is a means of disobedience. He says, ¿Cómo le respondía uno con un no a los españoles que daban órdenes? Pues se le decía ahorita, por supuesto. I translate. How did one answer no to Spaniards giving orders? I'm from Spain, by the way. You said ahorita, of course. The Spaniards said work, and you said ahorita, right now. And of course you meant no, never. This now, this ahorita haunts the sovereign now and sovereign obey like a shadow from the south. Now, just now, right now, ahorita is also a warrant and a means of saying no, not in my time, never. The new colonial situation. How does one answer no to dojis giving work orders? How do we respond to orders that we're supposed to execute now? Pues se le dice ahorita, por supuesto. What is this? This is now my third explosion. I've got just this one and one more explosion. And the last one is a very small explosion. What is this now in Trump's sentence and in mine? Now is not a noun, so it's not really a proper concept. It's not a word I use to name and make legible, graspable commonalities that I see in events or cases or things. It is not the answer to a question of the shape, what is X? For instance, the question, what is the deepest of all the riddles of time? What is it, this now, this colonial, impressed into sentential work, this gear, este bracero, este jornalero? What is ash now, I ask? What is a tree now? What is a street now? Now modifies the existential verb. It concerns the eventness of the noun. It does indexical work, modalizing work, adverbial work, aspectual work on the verbs that I use when I make a statement about a concept. I immediately see a difficulty. Work is force over time. How is it to be reckoned, this work, at a point zero? What sort of differential calculus will I need to think to reckon the delta T of change and force and work at the point zero of the present of enunciation? Deleuze and Guattari's enigmatic chapter, What is a Concept?, opens their Qu'est-ce que la philosophie of 1991. Their characterization of the work of philosophical thought seeks to solve just this difficulty. The concept, they write, is in a state of, this is mostly Deleuze, but Guattari is sort of in the background saying, Gilles, vas-y, Gilles. Right, so the concept is in a state of survey in relation to its components. It is immediately co-present to all its component or variations, at no distance from them, passing back and forth through them. The concept is defined by the inseparability of a finite number of heterogeneous components traversed by a point of absolute survey. Point en survol absolu at infinite speed. The survey, survol, is the state of the concept or its specific infinity. In this sense, the concept is an act of thought. It is thought operating at infinite speed. Thought, then, is both and at once my activity when I name commonalities and make them legible and graspable, and it is the concept's infinitely fast traversing of these heterogeneous components. I'm dissatisfied on two counts. Is there indeed a point zero, a standpoint which could at infinite speed move in thought as thought across a field of heterogeneous components, a unique single point immediately co-present to this heterogeneity? Is there a field for me to survey? Not if, as I believe, I and now are both in construction. I imagine the surveying point on condition that what it traverses be a field, empty, terra nullius. There's a point of absolute survey where and when the movement of my thought has first flattened out dynamics, discontinuities, antecedent claims, and symbolic appropriations, dissimilarities, and times into a field, into a this heterogeneity, submitted it to its extensible now, spatialized it. Take an example. I ask, what is a street? What is a tree? What is ash? My answers survey infinitely quickly a finite number of heterogeneous components. How do I know that what I survey is a component? I must have already surveyed the commonalities or heterogeneous components of the concept heterogeneity and of the component relation. I must grant not only that street or tree or ash's different commonalities or heterogeneous components are different just now from what they were then, any then, for instance, before the night of the Eton fire on January 7th, 2025, not only that these heterogeneous components are made differently legible today than at any other moments, but that the very notions or concepts of commonality and heterogeneity change moment to moment and location to location as well. Before the IDF's uprooting of ancient olive groves became a weapon of symbolic and material war in Palestine, the question, what is a tree, remitted to one concept. Now it remits to another. Heterogeneity speaks of difference in species, race, origin, kind, genus, genus. Heterogeneity is made up of chronological differences too. There are moments before racial science and since racial science, before and since the genome sequencing juridical and biopolitical paradigm is installed. Our relation to these concepts and to their different components is not instantaneous, immediate, but constructed at some speed. It is not infinite, but some specific historical speed. It is different when the technical means of surveying are mechanical, analog, rather than as today, digital and GPS driven. It is different when surveying, survol, overflying, is imagined to serve colonial purposes and when it is not. And here the question of the value of imagination is central. And the differences that hetero designate differ too over time, from now to now. When heterogeneity can be mapped, surveyed, overflowed according to natural kinds, I will think difference in a way that I will not if nature is not, for me and for my language, composed of things that are or can be made out to be similar to one another. Tree, ash, and street were not at all political, or were much less so, or were quite differently political before now, before US-backed Israeli forces consigned Gaza to dust and ash over the past 15 months, and before and after the wildfires of anthropogenic climate change rushed through Los Angeles, destroying my town. Ash falls like ash or snow on all the living and the dead in the streets of Gaza, heterogeneous and yet and simultaneously and uncontrollably related to the streets of Altadena and to our streets here. Now, tree and ash and street, and especially now itself, do other work as well as or instead of the work that my sentences require, or they do no work at all. And thus, tree and ash and now, especially now, refuse to become fields that I can map in thought at infinite speed immediately. Other languages and other nows show me and others that whatever work now does is not given. It is not simple work, thermodynamic work, Newtonian work. Now does not act as one discrete body acts punctually on another body. Now does not carry out the determinate work that a suffix or a prefix might carry out on a concept noun, or that an adverb carries out upon a verb. Okay, last explosion. Tiny. Let me therefore not close glorifying work and overwork. Let me close on the entropic babble and chatter of sabotage, resistance, and revolution instead. Like other deictics in English and other languages, now makes concepts fall on a particular spot at a particular time. It marks the specificity of the case, this case, here, now. It binds, yes, but it also unbinds. Now, parts and parts. It cases and cases, point by point, what is the case. In short, now works sententially at many contradictory offices. And so doing, I've been saying, now discloses and constructs the politicality of concepts. As I explode now, nowing and casing and binding and unbinding it. What I've been showing is that now works in wild ways that you and I don't police or intend when we use it. My thought's coherent point of absolute survey or absolutely overflying point flattens and commands. It is disobeyed. It shatters on the many sharp edges of its here, of its for me or for us, and especially of its now. Promiscuous indices that draw the wild worlds of concepts connoting out from the punctual now of their denoting. Yes, this wild work puts subjects and their concepts to the test of what is the case. It marks out where they fall. It makes up their politicality. But wild work is still work, after all, though it may be disorganized and unproductive. The politicality of concepts is also expressed and subtracted, perhaps more urgently now than ever, when now and the other locative deictics that I've just mentioned babble and chatter, when they fail and disobey and don't do work that you and I or anyone else can reliably cash out or profit from. I mean, of course, to evoke phatic nows and heres and thens, now, words empty of sense and reference, empty of connotation and denotation that English speakers use when they're hemming and hawing. Now, nowing and here nowing or there thereing, interrupting themselves, hanging just at the 0 point of conversation. In English, we say a transmission, in Spanish, we say a transmission hangs in punto muerto, when it is doing no work, when it's in neutral. The phatic now hangs in a sentence's every working now, unworking, idle, idling, soliciting conversational time, on break, on strike, violent, passive. Against the right now machine of techno-capitalism, then, let us right now mobilize both ahorita's wild work in constructing and unbuilding the politicity of concepts and the unbinding, babbling, and chattering non-work that it offers. It's punto muerto. Thank you.